what's going on, y'all? So I got a special video for y'all today. I was gone this weekend. I was absent this weekend. I had to handle some business. I was out on a business trip. And oh man, am I so sad that I missed it. There was something I really wanted to make a video on, and the opportunity seems to have slipped or passed me by. Recently, Just Pearly Things put out a video with a white supremacist by the name of Nick Fuentes. I really wanted to react to that video. I even recorded a few snippets, and I'll go over those with you today, but I didn't get a chance to react to the whole thing or record as much as I wanted to before Just Pearly Things decided to take down the video because she knew she messed up. You know, she knew she was, she made a big mistake with that video. Now, if you're not aware, Just Pearly Things is a YouTuber. She has over 1 million subscribers. Her claim to fame has largely been her decision to expose Western dating dynamics and a lot of the hypocrisy and just extreme views that a lot of the modern women of today's Western society seem to have. The expectations that they seem to put on men versus the expectations they have for themselves, and the requirements they put on men versus what they seem to be bringing to the table. So that's what Just Pearly Things is famous for. She's a famous she's famous, she has 1 million subscribers based on exposing Western dating dynamics. So that's kind of her lane. So the fact that she would go into this video with a known racist, self-proclaimed white supremacist, this is way off character for her, and it was so cringe. So check this clip out. I'm going to come back with some thoughts.
Today, I have a special guest, Nick Fuentes.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I looked you up on Google, okay? So he is a political commentator with over 25,000 followers on his own site, Cozy TV. You have been banned on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, and TikTok. Your Wikipedia page describes you as a right-wing extremist who denies the Holocaust, is on the no-fly list, and supports Putin.
Yeah, that's about right.
Is there anything I missed?
Yeah.
Okay, so you heard his introduction. This man is self-proclaimed. He agrees to the fact that he's described as a right-wing extremist, a Holocaust denier. He's banned on Twitter, Twitch, every social media site that's relevant. He supports Putin. Okay, all right. We're just getting the background. On this guy. He has agreed so far. He's agreed to all of that. Right-wing extremist, Holocaust denier, known racist. This is who she decides to bring to an interview, despite the fact that she's supposed to be a dating guru. Okay. Let's see what they talk about.
This is what happens when nationalism goes too far.
But your argument was the Holocaust was not special and all countries have done that.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So you're saying, why is the Holocaust special?
Yeah, basically.
Oh. Okay, what do you mean, basically?
Well, yeah, I mean, because of course, we're getting into the details of it, but yeah, that's the gist.
Yeah, I mean, but you kind of deny it happened.
I deny some of the parts of it.
You deny parts of it don't seem realistic to you. You think they were embellished upon.
I think they're embellished, yeah.
The same way. This sounds... Oh, gosh.
Oh, boy.
They're going to get trouble. This sounds similar to the slavery stuff, too, because that's literally... the founder of... Or the guy who made Roots said, I wanted a myth for my people to live by. So they often... But that's what they do, is they embellish... And I'm not trying to say it wasn't horrible. It was.
Right.
But they want to make it like more horrible so that they can control people in a way. And that it sounds really similar because even with the please leave me on YouTube. Please. But even with like the slavery stuff, like that's what they'll do, and they won't talk about instances of like slaves traveling across states. Like when they initially freed the slaves, there were some slaves that felt so indebted to their owners that they would travel across states to pay them back, and they actually had a really good relationship with them. But they act like that wasn't possible, and it was still wrong. It wasn't a good institution.
Right.
But they don't talk about like the more nuanced things that happened in slavery.
I really wish I could play this whole video. I've got more clips, so don't worry, but I really wish I could kind of frame this a little bit better for y'all to understand the picture of the conversation these people were having. Because just from what you've heard so far, you can kind of start to see the reason she invited this man on. Now, let's give, just in case you're not familiar with this woman and her channel, you have to understand when I say that she's largely involved in talking about Western dating dynamics, she's largely involved in Black dating dynamics. The majority of the people that she interviews are Black women. She might have some Black men, but the majority of the people that she's talking to are Black women. She's trying to tell Black women how, they treat men badly. And there's a conversation that could be had in that realm. She gets a lot of support for that because there's not a lot of people who will tell the truth about the way women treat men, and especially right now with the feminists, the Me Too movement, there's a lot of misandry, but there's not a lot of voices that tell women the other side of the story, the fact that men aren't being treated fairly in a lot of ways. So there is a voice, a necessary voice for that conversation on her channel. But the fact that she built her brand, she built her channel talking down to Black women, primarily talking down to Black women about their dating habits, their dating choices, their decisions on breaking up the Black family, leaving men at 80%. I believe the divorce rate is women leaving men is like 80%. 80% of divorces are filed by women. So these are the type of stats that she'll explain and expose on her channel, largely speaking to Black communities, Black interviewers, Black interviewees, but then she brings on a known racist and she tries to whitewash slavery. It's kind of giving a Margaret Sanger kind of vibe here. Like, okay, you're saying you're starting Planned Parenthood to help Black people, but really you're a eugenicist. It's kind of giving that vibe. Like, are you here to help or are you here to hurt? Because on 1 minute, you're talking about Black issues as if you're the voice of reason, but then in the next minute, you're interviewing a known racist and you're agreeing with his position. He's talking about anti-Semitism. He's denying the Holocaust. And what does she do? She says that, oh, well, it's kind of like the way we talk about slavery. Like, he wasn't even talking about slavery. He wasn't even talking about Black people. She just volunteered this information. She volunteers this comparison between the Holocaust and the fact that slavery was a bad institution, but not that bad. We don't talk about the nuance. We don't talk about the fact that some slaves wanted to be slaves, as if that was the majority of the situation. There's more. Check this out.
And I forgot what founding father, but they were talking about how he really he inherited slaves and he actually had a really good relationship with them. He didn't make any money off the farm, but it was like if he freed them, what would they do?
Right.
What do you mean, what would they do? What would they do? They would be free. If they freed them, they would be free. They could stay on the farm if they chose to and work for a wage as a free man. These people, these slave owners, were not doing their slaves a favor by keeping their slaves in bondage. We need to get rid of this myth that this woman is trying to rationalize and whitewash slavery by saying, oh, well, they felt bad for their slaves. They had to keep them as slaves because if they were free, what would they do? They would be free. Do you think that the slave owners asked the people, asked their slaves, hey, do you want your freedom? And the slave said, no, master, no, I don't want to be free. If I get my freedom, I'm going to be free. What's I going to do with my freedom? What?
And so he kind of looked at it as I have to take care of them, and he wasn't even making money off of the farm.
Yeah.
But, then they say you're even now I'm like, oh gosh.
Well, and that is something that happened when that was one of the big arguments against the abolition of slavery is that a lot of them would just die
Yeah.
because they didn't know how to get along independently. And that did happen for generations.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's actually one of the reasons that why American blacks have a higher average IQ than African blacks on average. And they say that that's because a lot of them just straight up died after the Civil War.
Really?
Because they couldn't get along.
Do you hear the way these people revise history? The black people died because they couldn't get along? No, the black people died because they were starved. They were kicked off of the land that they tilled and built. They were promised 40 acres and a mule, and they never received it. They were pushed off and to the wilderness and told, hey, you cannot work here. You cannot cultivate your own land. If you do cultivate your own land, the Klan will come and burn it down and burn your house down. They weren't just left to their own devices and couldn't farm. They were farmers for generations, hundreds of years. They knew how to farm. They weren't given the opportunity. These racists will revise history to make themselves so comfortable. And there's more.
Like Charlie Kirk was going around, and this was his line. He said that we should staple green cards to diplomas. In other words, every foreign student that comes to America, he said he wanted to bring them in as an immigrant.
Okay.
And he said we could bring in 50 million immigrants in 10 years.
And you're not pro-immigration?
No. And that's not a conservative position, especially not 50 million people in 10 years.
Right.
Because America's got 300 million. So, what is that? 1/6 of the population in 10 years.
And so why is that?
Why does he support that?
No, why are you against pro? Because in my head, see, I hire people from Africa, right?
Right.
Shout out Blessing.
Yeah.
And I just see like the work ethic of people that are like not from America, and they often work harder than the people that are from America.
Now, a lot of people have been getting on her for this part where she says people who are not from America tend to work harder than Americans. A lot of people have been saying this part is racist. There is so much stuff I take offense to disregarding this part. Now, this part, when I first saw this clip, it didn't strike me as, so compelling because this is a very common thing. And it's not just black people. Now, this is important that I point out. This lady is in the UK, I believe. I think she's in London, and she's trying to immigrate to the United States. She's going to get into that in a bit, but she's trying to come to the United States. She's not even an American citizen. In Europe and in other parts, actually all over the world, there's this common stereotype that Americans are lazy, Americans don't work hard. And that's not just black Americans. When we're in America, they like to say that black Americans don't work hard and immigrants work harder than black Americans. But when you go outside of America, when you go to Europe or Africa or Asia, these people, when they say Americans are lazy, they're not just talking about black Americans. They just mean Americans in general, white Americans and black Americans. Black people get that stereotype in America, but if you do some traveling, you'll see the stereotype is really on all Americans, especially white Americans, secretly kept.
So in my head, it's like, wouldn't it help us economically if we had more, like, if they had a certain, like, mindset in order to come here?
There is a lot of truth to that. And I'll agree with you there. Particularly like Hispanics in America, very hard. The Africans too. I mean, because
Nigerian Americans I'm pretty sure they out earn white Americans.
They do. Their median income. This is old statistics,
Indian,
but it's like $80,000 a year.
Yeah.
They're, Iranians, all those immigrant groups, they're very productive. And
it would make my job easier too. Like, because I'm thinking of me, so I'm a woman, a selfish perspective.
Yes.
Like, if immigration would be easier, it'd be easier to get some of my employees from England to the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and there's economic arguments, and we could go there for a minute. I agree with you. They're very hardworking. The thing is about immigration, though, the only way to view it is that it benefits two groups economically, and that is the immigrants themselves, because it's of course, their ascendant. They're, moving from Nicaragua to America, like you're moving up in the world. It's also the firm owners, the capitalists, the people that own the businesses. Of course, what is the business's biggest cost? It's labor.
Correct.
And so a Nicaraguan or a Honduran or whatever will take less money, cheaper wages than an American, because a cheap wage in America is a higher wage than whatever they're earning in Central America or Asia. So the immigrant benefits because they make more money, and the firm owner benefits because they get to lower their labor cost. The loser in that equation is the American worker.
Now, even a broken clock is right twice a day. On this topic, on this subject, I think that Nick is right. Immigration is a problem in America, and it needs to be addressed. Now, this was a really interesting interview. I wish Pearl would have left it up because it was a great interview. It was really interesting. Some of the things Nick was saying, I actually agree with. Most of the things I don't, but some of the things, he did make some interesting points. One of the things I did agree with was his position on immigration. Now, as he says in this interview, immigration is a problem because it's bringing in competitors for the labor market. You're bringing in cheap labor from other countries. They come to America looking for a job. They're willing to accept, not only are they willing to accept lower wages for the same amount of work, but they're also willing to accept disrespect. And that's a thing that it doesn't really get a lot of attention. One of the reasons why Black Americans are so hated, especially in America, is because Black Americans will not accept the disrespect, especially in work environments, that other immigrant groups will. Immigrants will come, get disrespected on the job, laugh it off, shrug it off, because they're just so happy to be there. Whereas Black Americans, when we work for this, do the same amount of work. People try to say we're lazy, but no, we're willing to work. We work hard, but we do not accept the disrespect that other groups are comfortable taking. That's one thing that Black Americans, our spirit, we hold ourselves with such dignity and such respect. We do not accept disrespect on the job. A lot of other groups, they accept this disrespect. And that's why other immigrant groups do get preferential treatment in a lot of these work environments, because they're seen as more cooperative, but really they're not more cooperative. They're just willing to accept disrespect. So other groups, the dominant society, feels more comfortable because they know, hey, I don't have to worry about this African jumping down my neck if I say something racist. But if I hire a Black American and I say something racist, it's going to be a problem. So that's something that doesn't get enough attention. With that being said, these are a few of the clips that I had from that interview. It was a really good interview. Unfortunately, Pearl took it down. She was getting too much backlash. So what did she do? She issues an apology. I've got a few minutes left. Let's check out this apology before we end the video.
Everything. Now, I've seen a lot of videos that say I play dumb or I'm playing dumb. And I'll tell you what I knew and what I didn't know. So I did know that he was a known racist. I did know he was a known sexist. I did know that basically every bad name in the book, from the right and the left, everyone hated him. So the reason I had him on was because, guys, people say that stuff about me. They say I'm sexist. They say I'm a misogynist. And, I really just like to give people the benefit of the doubt when I interview them. I don't go into interviews trying to interrogate someone. I just more try to listen and see where they're coming from. In hindsight, that wasn't smart. And in hindsight, I should have had someone, maybe Sarah Garvey, maybe another content creator that could have pushed back more and really was more educated on the topics that he was talking about than I was, because I certainly was not an expert in any of the stuff that he was talking about. I did remove the interview. I, again, did not think through a lot of the repercussions of posting that, so I just removed it. If you do want to see the full interview, Obsidian did react to it. That's on his channel. The intention was not, I guess, to hide it. It was just, this might not have been the best move. I'm just going to remove it now. So again, racism has no place in society, and I do take accountability for bringing him on. Hindsight's always 20/20.
Hindsight's 20/20. This girl, oh my God. She said racism has no place in society. She starts off her apology by saying, I did know that he was a known racist. I knew he was a misogynist. I knew he was a racist. And then she ends her apology by saying, Racism has no place in this society. The hypocrisy. Listen, it's cap. It's cap. You know she knew what she was doing. She was trying to pivot. Her whole platform is about dating and Western relationships. She's found herself in a bubble. She can't talk about anything else she wants to talk about outside of dating. But she has this subconscious, this racist subconscious, and she wants to make some content about that stuff because that might be her underlying interest. So what does she think? Hey, maybe I can get a new audience if I pivot to this alt-right crowd, if I pivot to this neo-Nazi crowd, if I pivot to this extreme racist crowd. She wasn't expecting the backlash. But hey, that's just what I think. Thanks for checking out this video. Be sure to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button for this type of content. I try to drop a video every day, multiple videos every week guaranteed. Peace. So you made it all the way to the end of the video, but you haven't hit the like button yet. Come on now. You're cheating me, you're cheating yourself. Go ahead, hit the like button. And while you're at it, you might as well smash the subscribe button so you can get notifications every time I drop a video. I make a video every day, a different topic, a different subject. They're all interesting, so you can check them all out by hitting the subscribe button and setting your notifications to all so you get an alert when I drop a video. There you go.